In 1906, a soil scientist working in the American Southwest documented something that would have changed farming forever. He watched indigenous communities grow crops in desert conditions with almost no rainfall, not by irrigation, not by hauling water, but by engineering the soil itself to hold and create moisture from within. He wrote 3 papers. They were filed, cited once, and quietly forgotten. Not because the science was wrong, because the fertilizer industry was just getting started. Today, we are going to build that system in your backyard. And by the time you finish watching, you will understand why every bag of fertilizer you have ever bought, every hour you have ever spent dragging a hose across your garden was completely unnecessary. Most gardeners believe soil is just a medium, a place to hold roots while you pour nutrients and water from outside. That is exactly what a $400 billion agricultural industry needs you to believe, because the moment you understand what soil actually is, a living ecosystem that produces its own water, manufactures its own fertility, and feeds itself indefinitely, you stop buying what they sell. The system we are building today has no brand name. You cannot find it on a store shelf. It has been in the ground, literally, for thousands of years across multiple civilizations, and the science behind it was documented by mainstream researchers as recently as the 1970s. Then the funding dried up. The extension offices stopped teaching it, and an entire generation of gardeners grew up thinking soil was just dirt that needed to be fed from a bag. It was not an accident, it was a business model. Here's what this system does. It creates a buried moisture reservoir under your soil that holds water like a sponge and releases it slowly to plant roots over days and weeks, not hours. It feeds beneficial fungi that manufacture plant nutrients from organic matter that would otherwise just sit there. And it attracts earthworms by the thousands, whose castings are worth more per gram than any fertilizer you can buy. Total setup cost, $0 if you use what is already in your yard. Maximum cost if you buy materials, around $2. Once it is buried, you will not touch it again, and your soil will not need you to water it every day again either. Let me give you the number that explains why you have never seen this on a garden center shelf. The global fertilizer market is worth $197 billion per year. The lawn and garden watering equipment market adds another $9 billion. Those industries exist entirely because gardeners believe that fertility and moisture must come from outside the soil. A buried organic layer that manufactures both for free, permanently, does not fit inside that business model. You cannot put it in a bag. You cannot patent it. You cannot sell it at a markup. What you can do is make sure the university research that documents it stays obscure, that extension agents keep recommending bags of synthetic fertilizer, and that the average home gardener keeps dragging a hose every single morning, never realizing the answer was 6 inches underground the whole time. That ends today. This is a 4-part living system. Every part feeds the others. Part 1, the buried organic layer. This is the foundation. You dig a trench or loosen a bed down to about 12 inches. In the bottom 6 inches, you bury a layer of wood, logs, branches, wood chips, even cardboard layered thick. Wood is a moisture sponge. A single piece of buried rotting wood can hold 3 to 5 times its own weight in water. As it breaks down slowly over months and years, it releases that water upward into the root zone exactly when plants need it. This is called hugelkultur, a German word that simply means mound culture, and it has been used across Europe and indigenous North America for centuries. One buried layer lasting 20 years. Part 2. The fungal network. When wood is buried and begins to break down, it creates the exact conditions that mycorrhizal fungi need to thrive. These fungi form a network through your soil that connects plant roots together, extending their reach by up to 1,000 times, pulling minerals and moisture from areas roots could never reach alone. They do not need you to plant them. Given the right conditions, buried wood, minimal chemical disturbance, they colonize naturally within weeks. They also manufacture plant-available phosphorus, the nutrient you are most likely paying for in a bag of fertilizer. Part 3, the worm population. Earthworms are not just present in healthy soil, they create it. A single earthworm processes about 10 pounds of soil per year, turning it over, aerating it, and depositing castings that contain 5 times more nitrogen, 7 times more phosphorus, and 11 times more potassium than the surrounding soil. Buried wood and moisture are the 2 things worms seek most. Once your buried layer is established, worm populations in the bed above it can increase by 400 to 600% within a single growing season. You will not buy another bag of fertilizer. The worms will make one for you every single day. Part 4, the moisture cycle. Here is where it comes together. The buried wood holds water. The fungi pull additional moisture through the network. The worms aerate the soil so rain that does fall penetrates deeply instead of running off. And the organic matter that accumulates over time increases the soil's water holding capacity by up to 20% per 1% increase in organic content. The system builds on itself. Year 1 it helps. Year 3, it is largely self-sustaining. Year 10, your neighbors are still dragging hoses every morning. Let me give you the comparison that should make you genuinely angry. A 40-pound bag of balanced synthetic fertilizer costs around $25 and feeds a $1,000 square foot bed for approximately one season. Multiply that over 10 years and you spend $250 on fertilizer alone, not counting the water bill, which for a garden of that size in summer can add $30 to $60 per month in many regions. A buried wood layer covering that same 1,000 square foot bed uses material from your own property, branches, logs, wood chips from pruning, costs nothing, and lasts 15 to 20 years as it slowly breaks down and feeds the system above it. A 2012 study published in the journal Ecological Engineering found that beds established over buried wood retained soil moisture at twice the rate of control beds during dry periods and produced measurably higher yields without any added fertilizer in years 2 and 3. The researchers called it a promising technique for low-input gardening. Then the paper was cited 3 times and the research line was never funded again. The fertilizer companies did not need to ban this knowledge. They just needed to make sure it was never taught. Here is exactly how to build this in a weekend. Choose your bed location. Mark out the area. You are looking at a minimum of 4 feet wide by 8 feet long for a meaningful food production bed, though even a 2x4 patch will show results. Dig down 12 inches. If you have a raised bed already, pull the soil aside. You want to access the native ground below. In the bottom 6 inches, lay your wood. Logs 2 to 4 inches in diameter are ideal because they hold moisture longest before fully breaking down. Branches work. Wood chips layered 6 inches deep work. Cardboard. Real cardboard, not waxed. Layered thick and wet works as a starter layer if you have no wood. Wet everything thoroughly before you cover it. The wood needs to begin absorbing moisture before it is buried. Cover the wood with 2 to 3 inches of your richest organic matter. Compost if you have it, leaf mold, kitchen scraps layered in, whatever you can access. This is the transition zone where the fungal network will first establish. Return your topsoil above that. If your topsoil is thin or poor, add a few inches of mixed compost on top. Plant directly into the top layer as normal. Water the whole bed deeply once, right after planting. Soak it down to the buried wood layer. Then step back. For the first 2 weeks, water normally. The buried system is not activated yet, but by week 3 you will notice the surface staying moist longer after rain. By week 6, on days when your neighbor's beds are dry and cracking, yours will still have moisture 2 inches down. By year 2, you will water this bed significantly less than anything else in your garden. By year 3, in a normal rainfall year, you may not need to water it at all except in extended drought. Total materials cost if you have nothing on your property: a cubic yard of wood chips from a tree service, often free for the asking, and a bag of compost at around $2. That is the entire investment. There is a version of gardening that most people never reach, not because it requires skill or money or land, but because no one ever told them what soil actually is. They keep buying bags. They keep dragging hoses. They keep working harder every season and wondering why the results never quite match the effort. And then there is the version where you bury a layer of wood one afternoon and your soil quietly begins doing what soil has always known how to do: hold water, build fertility, sustain life, without your daily intervention. The people who built hugelkultur beds in Germany in the 1950s are gone, but some of those beds are still producing food. The buried wood is still releasing moisture. The fungal networks are still running. That is not a gardening tip. That is a different relationship with your land entirely. If that is the gardener you want to become, subscribe, because the next system we uncover goes even deeper, and what it replaces will surprise you even more. The wood is free. The knowledge is here. The only thing left is the shovel.